NASCAR has the Bristol Motor Speedway for the cutoff race of the round of 16, and we see chaos, tempers flaring after race between Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick, and a usual winner taking to victory lane and finally picking up his first ever win at Bristol Motor Speedway. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the Bass Pro Shops NR8 night race from Bristol Motor Speedway, the cutoff race of the round of 16, and I have to say that this race was absolutely outstanding. We're going to go ahead and talk about the race overall now. So starting on the pole, you had Mark Truex Jr. leading the outside, and Denny Hamlin leading the inside. And Mark Truex Jr. is actually able to lead for a few laps, and then Chase Elliott was able to get the race lead. And Chase Elliott was basically able to pull away. But you also at the time had Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson look really strong early in the race. They were really starting to catch Chase Elliott in runs, and they were actually almost able to pass Chase Elliott, but they weren't able to once the competition yellow came out. We go back racing. Well, we basically see some all leaders come down pit road, and then Joey Logano would be the first playoff driver to have trouble early in the race. Joey Logano would have a slow stop going back all the way from 6th to 23rd, doing to have a right rear brake basically came loose, having issues in the early portions. It would really be hard for him to come back in the race, but he would not be out of the race completely. On the race side, I have Chase on the outside and Kyle Larson on the inside, and Chase was able to get the race lead. And then Kyle Larson really was starting to get held up by some traffic, and then Kyle Larson was able to eventually pass Chase Elliott for the race lead. Chase had dominated up to this point, and then basically Kyle Larson eventually got around him. And then about 7 laps later, with traffic still being a factor, Kyle Larson got passed by Denny Hamlin, and Denny Hamlin was able to get the race lead. Of course, Corey LaJoie was not really helping out Kyle Larson. Corey LaJoie was kind of who was running like 29 for 30 at the time around that point, if I'm not mistaken. He basically was holding up Kyle Larson, trying to stay on the lead lap, and then Denny Hamlin got around Kyle Larson at this point. And coming off the corner, Denny Hamlin would go ahead, and then Kyle Larson actually got the lead back from Denny Hamlin, and then Denny Hamlin passed Larson back, and then Denny Hamlin would come off the corner and win stage 1 here at Bristol. Leaders would all come down pit road right after into stage 1, and for another bit, another playoff driver would end up having troubles. Chase Elliott was running 3rd at the time, would get off penalized for speeding entering pit road, and would have to not only go behind all the lead lap cars, but he would have to go back to the tail end of the longest line, which would affect him for a lot of portions of this race, because Chase Elliott would have to work his way back up to the front. So you had Kyle Larson on the outside, who won the race off pit road, and Denny Hamlin on the inside. And Kyle Larson got a really good restart, but he always struggled early portions of the runs. And then Brad Keselowski is able to take the race lead. And then Denny Hamlin eventually caught up to Brad Keselowski. Denny Hamlin got around Kyle Larson for second, and Brad Keselowski basically was getting passed by Denny Hamlin for the lead. He was able to take the race lead. And then we started hearing issues about Aric Almirola around lap 160 event with 340 laps to go. Aric Almirola started having issues with smoking. Now, it really wasn't a terminal issue. Apparently, it was a loose oil line, but he would get very, very lucky because the first big one, first small wreck, would basically end up happening. Ryan Newman basically cleared himself going down, I believe, in turn number 2, if I'm not mistaken, after contact with Cole Custer. He would go on the outside while collecting Custer, Daniel Suarez, and also Bubba Wallace, who ran into the back of Daniel Suarez. He would get some damage in the event as well. They would all basically run into some trouble at that point, and a lot of them would get out of the contention. And Ryan Newman also would unfortunately fall out of the race because he would never get back into the race because he basically, the time clock expired for Ryan Newman. The caution clock basically expired for him. So you basically see all the leaders come down pit road, and then NASCAR is about to go back green, and then oil started coming out, and Aric Almirola would be black flying to come down pit road, and they would wave off the restart. But eventually they got that resolved, and on lap 182, we would go back racing with Kyle Larson leading the outside after winning pit road, and Brad Keselowski being on the inside. And Kyle Larson was able to keep the race lead and pretty much dominate up to this point. But then another caution would come out about 40 laps after, with Anthony Alfredo getting to the outside wall in turn number 4. Corey LaJoie basically got into the back of Anthony Alfredo going into turn number 3. Really hard damage to Anthony Alfredo. And this, unfortunately, would collect BJ McLeod and Justin Haley. Anthony Alfredo was able to keep going in the race, but Justin Haley and BJ McLeod would unfortunately fall out of the race due to the damage on their cars. They unfortunately would fall out, and then they would go ahead and red flag the race to basically for cleanup. And then after that, we would see some strategy end up taking place. A lot of the guys up front in the lead, like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, they all say it out, while a lot of the other contenders like Kevin Harvick and Brian Blaney, they decided to come down pit road for strategy. On the restart, you have Kyle Larson on the outside and Brad Keselowski on the inside, and Kyle Larson was able to prevail. And then we would keep going, and then Kyle Larson was able to pull away and pick up another playoff point and win stage 2 here at Bristol Motor Speedway. And then all the cars that basically stayed out at that time would basically come down road. Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell basically all decided to stay up after coming down Pier Road. And you also see a little bit of strategy as well. As Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, and Matt DiBenedetto basically all took tires while the rest of them took down. And then Tyler Reddick a lap later, another playoff person in the playoffs, he would run into some trouble where basically he would have to come down pit road to tighten a right rear lug nut on the car. This unfortunately would take him out of contention. Well, it wouldn't officially take him out of contention, but this would hurt him in the race because so far late. So on the race on lap 260, you had Kevin Harvick leading the outside and Christopher Bell leading the inside. And then Ryan Blaney was actually able to pass Christopher Bell. And then a few laps later, Ryan Blaney's car was really, really good on the short run. He was able to pass Kevin Harvick late and is able to get the race lead. And then eventually, Kevin Harvick then caught up to Ryan Blaney and was really starting to make up some ground. And with 205 laps to go, or 206 laps to go in this race, Kevin Harvick was able to pass Ryan Blaney and get the race lead. And then we start seeing Ryan Blaney fall back because his car really, really started getting loose. And then we would start seeing the fresh tire guys like Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin. They would basically start catching up to them because, again, they have fresh tires. And yes, tires weren't as big of a factor in the event, but they were really starting to make up a ton of ground. And then around with 170 laps to go, Kyle Larson is able to pass Kevin Harvick and was able to basically pull away. And then with 130 laps to go, we would see another caution take place for Quinn Houff. Quinn Houff would lose a tire coming, I believe, off of turn number 4. He would spin out to the outside wall, and this would bring out the caution. And we'd see all the leaders come down pit road. And another playoff contender, Christopher Bell, would miss the pit stall and basically have to back up and fall, I believe, outside the top 15. It would basically not fall out of the race officially, but this would hurt him in the race overall. And then we go back racing with 130 laps to go, with Kyle Larson leading the outside and Kevin Harvick second on the inside, and Kyle Larson was able to keep the race lead. Denny Hamlin was really starting to challenge Kyle Larson. And then I believe the final caution in the race would come out with, I believe, 113 laps to go for Quinn Houff, once again having a tire issue with 113 laps to go in this event. This would actually be the final caution of the race. And then we basically see some strategy once again because guys like Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Brad Keselowski came down, and Kyle Busch came down the road while the rest of the leaders decided to stay out. So with 104 laps to go, Kyle Larson would keep the lead on the outside and Kevin Harvick to be second on the inside. And Denny Hamlin was able to try to get a challenge to Kyle Larson, but Denny Hamlin never got it. And then a few laps later, we'd actually see the official final cautions race for contact between Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin would get into the left rear quarter panel of Kyle Larson. This would affect Kyle Larson's car. He would get damaged in the event. And then Denny Hamlin going into turn number 1, he would hit the outside wall really, really hard and would get a broken suspension. And this would bring out the final caution of the race. I don't understand why Denny Hamlin was racing Kyle Larson hard. I get that you really want to get around Kyle Larson's car was super good on the long run, but I don't understand why Denny Hamlin was really racing Kyle Larson as hard as he was. I really don't get that, to be perfectly honest with you, but it is what it is, and you're trying to win a race, especially since you're locked into the next round. I really don't understand why you're racing that hard. And then Kyle Larson would stay out of course at that point, and then we go back racing with 93 laps to go with Kyle Larson leading the outside and Chase on the outside. Chase was actually able to pass Kyle Larson and started to pull away. And then we would basically start seeing some tire issues start happening late in this event. But first, we would see with 47 laps to go, a really good battle starting to heat up with Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott. Kevin Harvick points was starting to catch Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott was really holding his ground. Harvick started really rolling the corner, and then it started happening there. And then, with 45 laps to go, Kyle Busch would be the next driver to have troubles in this event. Kyle Busch was having a very solid run in the race. He would have a tire cut down running 6. He basically was still able to hold on his points gap, thank God for that. But Kyle Busch had a flat tire and go 1 or 2 laps down and eventually got back around Chase Elliott. And then we would see the next incident take place, and this is the big one between Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott. We'll talk about these two not being happy with each other after the race. But Kevin Harvick basically used the lap car of Josh Bilicki to clear Chase Elliott, and he literally pushes up into Chase Elliott, gets a little bit loose, pushes up into Elliott, and Elliott gets into the outside wall, and Chase Elliott has to basically come down pit road with the flat tire, and Kevin Harvick is able to keep the race lead. And then a few laps later, Chase Elliott catches up to Kevin Harvick, who has a pretty good cushion over Kyle Larson. And basically, Chase Elliott is very angry with Kevin Harvick at the time, basically pushes into Kevin Harvick and it still keeps going. And then a lap later, the next playoff driver, Christopher Bell, he would have a flat tire go down. This would be a destructive night for Joe Gibbs Racing. He would have a flat tire go down and would have to come down pit road for fresh tires. And then, with 5 or 6 laps to go, the race started getting extremely intense. You had Kevin Harvick, who's basically starting to really hold up. Chase Elliott was doing what a lot of teammates do, and we've seen it already this year with the Chip Ganassi boys and the Team Penske boys in the past. And I wasn't really mad what happened to Kyle Larson last time, and I really wasn't that mad with this, so I don't understand. And not to mention, I understand Chase Elliott doing it because Chase Elliott was really, really mad. Chase Elliott really started cutting off Kevin Harvick, was really holding Kevin Harvick up, and Kyle Larson started making up a ton of ground on Chase Elliott and was really starting to gain a ton of ground on him. Kyle Larson dives it to the inside, tries to pull a slide job with 4 or 5 laps to go. Kyle Larson is able to clear. He drives away. Then all of a sudden, William Byron is starting to make up a ton of ground. It looks like he's going to have an opportunity to catch up, and eventually it looks like William Byron is able to get around Kyle Larson. But Kyle Larson comes back after picking up some damage and coming off the corner. Kyle Larson is able to hold off Kevin Harvick, who was looking for his first win in a year. Kyle Larson picks up a clutch victory and picks up his 6th win of the 2021 season. And he's able to pick up his first win in the NASCAR Cup Series Plus and officially locks his way into the round of 16. Right after the race, there were tempers. There were some angry drivers after the race. You had Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick really, really mad. They basically pulled up to each other side by side right when they crossed the line. Kevin Harvick went up to Chase Elliott, of course, with his helmet on, and Chase Elliott went up there basically saying, pointing his finger at him. And then there started to be some pushing and some shoving. There started to be some anger between the two, and Kevin Harvick basically said what Chase Elliott was doing was chicken shit, and Chase Elliott came back and defended himself, basically saying that that's the way he wants to race. He races me like that all the time, and I'm not going to stand for it. So now let me talk about the incident overall before we go into the race results and talk about Kyle Larson and him winning and the drivers that also got eliminated as well. So we got to talk about that as well. But in my honest opinion, I think it was a racing deal, but let's be for real. I understand Chase Elliott being pissed off and screwing Kevin Harvick out of a win, to be perfectly honest with you. I understand that Kevin Harvick has had a frustrating year. But Kevin Harvick literally, yes, I know he's going for the win with 30 laps to go. He literally pushes Chase Elliott up the track, basically almost into the outside wall, and cuts Chase Elliott's tire down. So I understand why Kevin's pissed off at Chase Elliott for costing him the win. But in my opinion, unintentional or not, Kevin Harvick cost Chase Elliott a victory overall, so Chase Elliott affected his opportunity to win the race overall. So, man, I love short track racing, and this rivalry can definitely form, and it is what it is. It is what it is, and also team orders, and we can all discuss about team orders and all this stuff. But in all seriousness and all reality, Chase Elliott, in fact, can cost Kevin Harvick a win, who's having the best run of the year all year. And I understand Kevin Harvick being pissed off. That's the first time I've seen Kevin Harvick really angry since probably around 2016 at Talladega when he was not the happiest with Kurt Busch in 2016. So I completely understand why Kevin Harvick's mad, but I also understand why Chase Elliott's upset at the same time. But man, I think that we could see a rivalry that is formed between Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott going forward, and very interesting what happened in this event. But now let's first go ahead and then talk about Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson once again winning at Bristol. Kyle Larson has been so close to winning these races at Bristol, where he's pretty much dominated. 2018, had the best car most of the day, basically choked it away by spinning out from Ryan Newman, and then got passed by Kyle Busch late. And there's been so many times where he's been close to winning races here at Bristol, but he finally gets done, depending post-race inspection, he finally gets it done and gets that first win at Bristol that he's been longing for and gets his 6th win of the year. He's had such a good year, and it's great to see the Hendrick Motorsports and Kyle Larson are back in victory lane. Really happy to see this, and I think this has to be a good momentum booster overall for Kyle Larson. So now let's go ahead and jump into the results of this race. So Kyle Larson picks up the victory at Bristol. Kevin Harvick finishes second. Kevin Harvick had his best race all year, and it really looked like Kevin Harvick was actually going to win this race. For the first time, Kevin Harvick looked like he had a winning car all season long. He's had a few really strong runs this year, but Kevin Harvick looked really, really good tonight. And that incident between him and Chase Elliott really overall cost him the victory in the event, and Kevin Harvick finished second. Still a lot of momentum. He's able to advance to the next round. Great run for Kevin Harvick. William Byron finished his third. William Byron had a very, very strong run tonight. Got playoff points when he needed and stage points when he needed. And we'll talk about the playoff grid a little bit. William Byron with a really strong run. This will help him in the playoffs going forward. He finished his third in tonight's race at Bristol. Ryan Blaney, really strong run here at Bristol. Another very good run. Ryan Blaney's been hit or miss this track in the past, but he led a lot of laps. Came out of this race really, really clean. Gets us all top 5 run. Great run for Ryan Blaney. Alex Bowman finishes 5th. For a guy who's been kind of hit or miss this track in the past, to finish 5th, really solid run for this team. Hendry Motorsports had a good night overall until the end for Chase Elliott, but Alex Bowman finishing 5th. Great run for Alex Bowman. Brad Keselowski finished 6th. Brad Keselowski early in the race looked like he had a winning car, had a really good car. This is the fastest I've seen Brad Keselowski since New Hampshire. Really solid run for Brad Keselowski tonight. Mark Truex Jr. finished at 7th. Mark Truex Jr. first top 10 I think he's had since 2017 at this track. So a very solid run for Mark Truex Jr. tonight. He's actually, not to mention, also the highest finishing Joe Gibbs Racing driver tonight. He finished 7th in tonight's event. Eric Jones finishes 8th. Richard Petty Motorsports had a lot of speed in tonight's event. Eric Jones looked like he had one of the best cars, potentially the class, well, not the class of the field, I don't know why I'm saying that, but he looked like he had a top 10 car a lot of the event. Good pit strategy calls, great calls overall tonight. He finishes 8th. Great run for Eric Jones tonight. Denny Hamlin bounces back to a very solid run after the cut tire, bounces back to a 9th place finish. Good run for Denny Hamlin at the end of the day, regardless of what happened throughout the event. Finishes 9th. Can't be mad about that. And Matt DiBenedetto with the solid top 10 run, you love to see it. Matt DiBenedetto ran a lot of his race, especially in the top 7 or 8, and was actually a lot of race outside the top 10. But some good strategy calls from Matt DiBenedetto really helped him out overall, and he finished 10th in tonight's event. Joey Logano finishes 11th. Joey Logano really was hit or miss in the night, to be honest with you. He was kind of irrelevant most of the race. But he stayed irrelevant. Basically, he didn't have to go in this race really needing to win. He just needed to have a solid enough run. And he did have a solid enough run to survive. Tyler Reddick finishes 12th. It's not a bad run. He basically had to come back from a loose wheel. Unfortunately, I think he missed the next round of the playoffs. Unfortunately, he's out currently at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. Not a good run at the end of the day for Reddick. Unfortunately, he's out. But not a bad run also, not to mention. Chase Briscoe, solid top 15 run in 13th. Chase Briscoe really was ever mentioned on the broadcast, but I was watching Chase Briscoe tonight, and he never really ran outside the top 20. And solid top 15 run for the 14 team. You can't be mad about that. This could be momentum going into the next race, which is also Las Vegas, where they actually think they could run really well, even though SHR struggled at the 550 horsepower package races. I think this could be a momentum for Chase Briscoe. Ross Chastain with a solid top 15 run. Not a bad run for Ross Chastain. Austin Dillon finished his 15th. Not a bad run for Austin Dillon tonight. Bubba Wallace finished 16th. Considering what happened early in the event, 16th is not a bad run. Now, coming in this weekend, there had been a crew chief change for Booty Barker to be the crew chief for Bubba Wallace, and I think that they made the right call when it came to the strategy early in the race, because I think it really helped them in the race. Let's see, for real, they were a team that was running outside the top 20, and if they don't make that call that Booty Barker made, I think they don't run as well. I'm telling you, I think Mike Wheeler's been the whole problem with 2311 this whole year, because they made a good strategy call early in the race, and they finished 16th, even with damage. Solid top 20 run for Bubba Wallace tonight. Ryan Preece, solid top 20 run with the 17th place finish. Not a bad run for Ryan Preece tonight. Eric Almirola finished his 18th. Eric Almirola had a hit or miss night. It was kind of like a roller coaster night, but not a great run at the end of the day. He finishes 18th. Kurt Busch finishes 19th. Very disappointing run for Kurt Busch tonight, considering Kurt Busch coming in this race. I had him picked as one you need to watch out for because I thought Kurt Busch was going to run really well. Disappointing run for Kurt Busch, finished 19th. Kurt Busch never really ran inside the top 15 at all. He was really playing catch-up, went multiple laps down, went one lap down in the event, but really never had a chance to contend overall. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. rounds at the top 20. Not a bad run for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Kyle Busch, after the flat tire lane event, finishes 21st. Daniel Suarez finishes 22nd. Solid, decent recovery for Daniel Suarez, considering he had damage early in the event. Chris Buescher finishes 23rd. Michael McDowell finishes 24th. Chase Elliott, after the late issues in the event, finishing 3 laps down in 25th. 26th place finisher Corey LaJoie. 27 for J.J. Yeley. Saw actually not a bad run at all, things considered, for the 51 car. I'm telling you, J.J. Yeley should be up for potentially for consideration for Rick Ware if they go down to 2 cars. Not a bad run for J.J. Yeley tonight. That's not a bad run. Cole Custer finishes 28th. Chris Bell, after the tire go down late, he finishes 29th, like 7 or 8 laps down. Garrett Smithy finishes 30th. 31st place finisher Josh Blicky. 32nd place finisher David Starr. 33rd place finisher James Davison. 34th for Quinn Houff. 35th for Anthony Alfredo. 36th for Justin Hilly. 37th for BJ McLeod. And finishing last in 38th place is Ryan Newman. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the playoff grid and the drivers that got eliminated after the round of 16 here tonight at Bristol. The 12 drivers that are going to be racing into the next round are Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Kevin Harvick, who have a rivalry now going to Vegas. They will be the 12 drivers racing into the next round. That means that Kurt Busch, Tyler Reddick, Eric Almirola, and Michael McDowell will not advance to the round of 12. Pending road race inspection, those will be the 4 drivers that get eliminated. I'll be honest with you, the only driver that I kind of not surprised he's eliminated in the first round is Kurt Busch. I expected the other 11 that were going to get in. The driver that was able to advance out of the first round was Christopher Bell, and Christopher Bell performed a lot better than Kurt Busch, so that did not surprise me overall that those are 4. Besides Kurt Busch, I expected Kurt to run a little bit better than he did this year, but again, he really didn't run that well at Bristol, and he got eliminated in the first round, unfortunately. So now let's overall go ahead and talk about the race overall and give you my score of tonight's race. This Bristol race was absolutely outstanding from start to finish. It was really, really good, back and forth, really good racing, side by side. Yes, at points it was very, very difficult to pass, but I will say this race compared to last year's race that happened to fall, I think it was much better than that one, even though last race of fall was really, really solid and definitely really, really entertaining. I think that this race was definitely really, really interesting, especially since you had tempers flaring at the conclusion of this event. I think that this is a Bristol race and a Bristol weekend, not to mention, after a really good Xfinity Series race and a really good truck race that we're going to remember. I am going to give tonight's race at Bristol Motor Speedway overall a 9.5 out of 10. Like I said, I thought the race was a near perfect race. It was really, really entertaining. You had short track tempers. You love to see it, and really good racing and a very solid finish overall. So, anyway, that is it for tonight's race review from Bristol Motor Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, turn notifications so you're notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support our page on the description below for that, and comment your thoughts on tonight's race. What are your thoughts on tonight's race? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know your score in the comments below. And congratulate Kyle Larson on picking up his 6th win of 2021 in his first race win in the NASCAR Cup Series Plus. Next week, we're beginning the round of 12. We're going to be heading out to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where we will see 12 drivers contend for the playoffs. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.